last ice age.
It's really only in the last 5 years that archaeologists certainly, and I think earth scientists, have really realized the amount that the one can tell the other. And it's only now that there's beginning to be this cautious dialogue between the two.
Much of this dialogue is focused on the region between the Andes Mountains and the equatorial Pacific, the coastal strip of northern Peru. This is one of the driest places on Earth. There's little or no rain for years on end. Yet the desert is broken by a procession of river valleys. Oases which rely on meltwater from the icy peaks to the west. Early in the 16th century, these valleys were strongholds of the Incas and were ruled from faraway Cusco, the mountain capital of the vast Incan Empire. The Incas were swept away by the Spaniard Pizarro and his conquistadors. Destroyed was Incan scholarship, and with it, much of the oral record of Peruvian history. In a region where writing was never developed, crucial details of the peoples and civilizations which predated the Incas were lost. But some things did endure. Tantalizing clues like the great platforms rising from the banks of the Lambayeque and Moche rivers. Vast mounds of mud bricks. Hundreds of millions of bricks. The largest adobe structures in the Americas. Two of the greatest face each other across an arid plain and were called by the Spaniards Huaca del Sol y de la Luna, the sacred places of the sun and the moon. Archaeologists are piecing together the story of the civilization which built these structures. They're finding that story in richly adorned tombs. In walls dedicated to savage gods. And in the elaborate ceremonies which inspired generations of craftsmen.
What we do as iconographers is to bring together all the moments of the story and reconstruct a sequence. And we have done that in great detail. We don't have writing, and we have no words to tell us what happened. I mean, nobody's telling us the story, but nevertheless we can reconstruct the whole sequence of events.
We call them the Moche, a civilization which straddled the coastal valleys of northern Peru 1,500 years ago.
The Moche was an extraordinary civilization, and I use the word extraordinary rather reluctantly because there were a lot of extraordinary societies in the past. If you reflect that Moche civilization flourished in the driest environment on Earth, and it flourished within the confines of a series of river valleys which were watered only by very, very rare rainfall and by mountain runoff from the Andes. And they managed to support tens of thousands of people by some of the most extraordinarily sophisticated and skillful irrigation anywhere in history. If you reflect on the wealth, it really is a truly amazing achievement.
We've learned that the Moche culture rose in the 1st century AD and flourished for more than 700 years. The heights of the sacred places were reserved for society's elite, a small group of families whose leaders are referred to as warrior priests. Theirs was a life of intense ritual. There were ceremonies to appease the gods, and ceremonies to demonstrate the power of men and women who believed themselves to be gods. The most important of these ceremonies was performed at the Huaca de la Luna. It included combat, human sacrifice, and the ritual consumption of human blood.
Groups of people get together completely armed in all the military gears and fight against each other. Nobody dies in the field, but instead people are taken captives. And they lose their dignity by losing their clothing and their headdresses. On top of the Huaca de Luna, we have found the bodies of these people, the real bodies, the corpses, with many times the bones have scratches and marks of cuts that have been inflicted in the bodies. And it is very clear that they were trying to get the blood out of the bodies. They were trying to get the fluid of life out of these individuals. This is not only a ritual discourse of death, but it's a ritual discourse of power. I mean, they are representing something that is only meant to be done by the elite.
In the middle of the 8th century, something went wrong, catastrophically wrong. Virtually overnight, the Moche culture collapsed. Its disappearance has baffled generations of archaeologists. A 1,000 years later, the mid-19th century, and another mystery rocks the Peruvian coast. The deaths of millions of seabirds. Although the coastal strip is arid, prospects for life are very different offshore. A phenomenon called upwelling, cool, nutrient-rich water rising from the depths, makes the ocean off Peru the equivalent of a tropical rainforest.